The moment you've been waiting for might finally be here. Trump has just thrown his support behind a brand new stimulus plan, and if you've been struggling to make ends meet or wondering when financial relief will come your way, this could change everything for you and your family. Before we dive into exactly what this means for your wallet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on payments that could be heading your way. Let's cut straight to what everyone wants to know: what exactly is Trump supporting and how much money are we talking about? Recent developments show that Trump has voiced his backing for a stimulus package that could put direct payments into the hands of millions of Americans who are still feeling the economic pressure from inflation, rising costs, and financial uncertainty. While the exact details are still being hammered out in Congress, the framework suggests payments that could range anywhere from $800 to $2,000 per eligible individual, with additional amounts for families with children. This isn't just political talk anymore. This is about real money that could hit your bank account in the coming months if everything moves forward as planned. Now you're probably asking yourself whether you would actually qualify for these payments, and that's exactly what we need to break down, because not everyone will be eligible, and understanding the criteria right now could save you a lot of disappointment later. Based on the current proposal that Trump is backing, the eligibility requirements would likely mirror previous stimulus programs, but with some important differences. If you're a single filer who made less than $75,000 in the most recent tax year, you would likely qualify for the full payment amount. For married couples filing jointly, that threshold jumps to $150,000. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike some previous stimulus rounds, this proposal includes a phase-out system that's more gradual, meaning even if you earn slightly above these thresholds, you might still receive a partial payment rather than being completely cut off. The timing of Trump's support for this stimulus plan isn't random, and understanding why this is happening now gives you important context about whether these payments will actually materialize. The economy is sending mixed signals right now. While unemployment numbers look relatively stable, consumer spending has been declining, credit card debt has reached record highs, and countless families are still struggling with grocery bills that seem to climb every single week. Trump and his supporters argue that injecting direct cash into the economy isn't just about helping individuals, it's about preventing a broader economic slowdown that could affect everyone. The political calculation here is also worth noting because with midterm dynamics and ongoing economic debates, there's genuine momentum behind getting some form of relief package passed, though the exact details are still being negotiated between different factions. What makes this stimulus proposal different from what we've seen before is the focus on targeted relief rather than blanket payments to everyone. The plan Trump is supporting includes specific provisions for groups that have been hit hardest by recent economic conditions. Senior citizens receiving Social Security would see additional payments on top of their regular benefits, recognizing that inflation has eaten away at their fixed incomes more severely than almost any other demographic. Parents would receive enhanced payments for each dependent child, acknowledging the reality that families with kids have faced exponentially higher costs for everything from childcare to education expenses. There's also a component aimed at helping people who are currently employed but still struggling, the working poor who don't qualify for many assistance programs but also aren't earning enough to comfortably cover their basic needs in today's economy. The mechanics of how you would actually receive your payment if this passes are important to understand because the government has learned some lessons from previous stimulus rollouts, both good and bad. If you've received a tax refund via direct deposit in recent years, that same bank account would likely be used to deposit your stimulus payment, which could mean you'd see the money within days of the program being activated. For those who filed taxes but didn't use direct deposit, paper checks would be mailed out, though this process typically takes several weeks longer. One major improvement being discussed is a better system for people who don't normally file taxes. Previous stimulus rounds struggled to reach individuals who weren't in the tax system, including some elderly Americans and people with very low incomes. The current proposal includes partnerships with Social Security Administration and other agencies to automatically identify and pay eligible individuals who might otherwise fall through the cracks. Critics of the stimulus plan have raised legitimate concerns that deserve consideration because understanding both sides helps you form a complete picture of what might actually happen. Some economists argue that direct payments could fuel additional inflation by increasing consumer spending when supply chains are still recovering and adding more money into an economy that's already dealing with price pressures. There's also the question of how this would be paid for, whether through increased deficit spending, new revenue sources, or cuts to other programs. Conservative fiscal hawks have expressed concern about adding to the national debt, especially if these payments don't come with corresponding economic growth that generates new tax revenue. These aren't just theoretical debates, they directly impact whether this proposal gains enough support to pass and whether the final version includes smaller payment amounts or tighter eligibility requirements as compromises. On the flip side, supporters of the stimulus plan point to very real human impact that makes the case for action. Food bank usage remains elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels. Eviction filings have been climbing in many cities. Credit card delinquencies are rising among people who historically paid their bills on time but are now choosing between medication and groceries. For millions of Americans, this isn't about wanting free money or government handouts, it's about needing a temporary bridge to get through an economically difficult period. Proponents argue that the multiplier effect of stimulus payments actually helps the broader economy because when struggling families receive cash, they immediately spend it on necessities, which supports local businesses, maintains employment, and generates tax revenue that partially offsets the program's cost. The political pathway for this stimulus plan to become reality involves several crucial steps, and understanding this timeline helps you know when you might actually see money. First, the proposal needs to be formally introduced as legislation in Congress, complete with specific dollar amounts, eligibility criteria, and funding mechanisms. Then it moves to committee hearings where it will be debated, amended, and potentially combined with other economic proposals. If it makes it out of committee, it would go to the full House of Representatives for a vote, then to the Senate where it would need 60 votes to overcome any filibuster, and finally to the president's desk for signature. This entire process could take anywhere from several weeks to several months depending on how much political support exists and whether it gets packaged with other must-pass legislation like a budget bill. Trump's vocal support certainly helps build momentum, but the reality is that multiple power players need to align for this to cross the finish line. What should you be doing right now to prepare for the possibility of receiving a stimulus payment? First and most importantly, make sure your tax information is current and accurate. If you moved recently, update your address with the IRS because payments sent to old addresses create massive headaches and delays. If you changed bank accounts, file your taxes this year with updated direct deposit information so the government has your current banking details. For those who don't typically file taxes because your income is below the filing threshold, consider filing anyway this year. Even if you don't owe anything, this gets you into the system and makes it far more likely you'll receive any payments you're eligible for without having to go through complicated claims processes later. Looking beyond this immediate stimulus proposal, it's worth understanding that the broader conversation about economic relief isn't going away anytime soon. Whether this specific plan passes or not, the underlying economic pressures that prompted it still exist, and that means there will likely be ongoing discussions about different forms of assistance, tax relief, or economic stimulus in the months ahead. Some proposals on the table include expanded child tax credits, payroll tax holidays, enhanced unemployment benefits for specific industries, and targeted assistance for small business owners who are struggling with commercial rent and operating costs. Staying informed about these different proposals helps you advocate for policies that would actually help your specific situation and also helps you plan financially rather than being caught off guard.